The illusion of superiority, the massive command vessel. Eternal dominion hung in the void between stars, its crystalline hull refracting light in patterns that had inspired awe and terror across 17 star systems. On its bridge, Supreme Commander, Vex Thalon stood before a holographic projection of a small blue planet. Earth, he rumbled, his scaled skin shifting from azure to deep crimson as he spoke. The final obstacle to total hegemony control of this spiral arm. Around him, a dozen alien commanders of varying species studied the holographic display. The Hegemony Council represented the most powerful alliance in known space. 18 different species united under one banner, one purpose, expansion and domination. Admiral Kazareth, whose translucent body pulsed with bioluminescent light, moved closer to the display. Primitive, she noted, her voice like shattering glass. Their technology is barely interplanetary. Our scans show minimal orbital defenses, primitive propulsion systems, and weapons technology at least 3 generations behind our standard. And, yet, Vexathalon replied, they refused our demand for surrender. His massive hand, tipped with obsidian claws, gestured to another display showing the diplomatic exchange from 3 standard cycles ago. The human representative, so fragile-looking, so small, had simply smiled and said, "The people of Earth respectfully decline your generous offer and wish to maintain our independence." War Minister Drovak, whose exoskeleton clicked softly, as he moved, spread his 4 arms in a gesture of dismissal. Their refusal is meaningless. They cannot comprehend what they face. Our fleet numbers over 7,000 vessels. Their entire defense force appears to be fewer than 300 ships, mostly converted civilian craft. Vexthalon nodded slowly. Precisely why this will be simple. We appear in force. They surrender. Minimal resources wasted. His eyes, multifaceted like an insect's, reflected the blue planet. Prepare the fleet for jump. Calculate emergence points to surround their planet and major orbital facilities. Standard intimidation formation. As the commanders dispersed to prepare their ships, Science Director Talari remained behind. The smallest of the council members, her species valued logic and calculation above all else. "Commander," she said quietly, "have you considered that their refusal might indicate something we've missed?" Vex's Thalon's scales rippled with amusement. "Such as? Unknown defensive capabilities, hidden allies, some form of strategy we haven't anticipated." The Supreme Commander's laughter filled the chamber. "Talari, your caution is noted but unnecessary. They are humans. They tamed fire barely 10,000 years ago. They split the atom less than 2 centuries ago. Our youngest species mastered antimatter technology before humans invented the wheel. And yet they refused," Talari persisted. "Because they do not understand," Vexathalon replied. "Once they see our fleet, they will understand. Prepare your division." Meanwhile, deep beneath the Rocky Mountains on Earth, Fleet Admiral Sarah Chen stood in the heart of Global Defense Command. Dozens of officers moved purposefully around her, their actions calm and precise despite the weight of what was coming. "Status update," Chen demanded, her voice steady. Colonel James Watkins approached, with a data tablet. "The Hegemony fleet is preparing to jump, Admiral. Our deep space monitors confirm they'll arrive in approximately 12 hours. Chen nodded. "And our preparations?" "Project Labyrinth is fully operational. The Ghost Fleet is in position. All underground manufacturing centers report green status. The swarm is prepped and waiting. Quantum network is synchronized at 99.7% efficiency." Chen allowed herself a small smile. "And the veil?" "Active and undetected. As far as their sensors can tell, we're exactly what they expect us to be. A primitive species with basic orbital defenses and retrofitted ships." Lieutenant Commander Amara Okafor joined them, her normally cheerful face serious. "Admiral, the President is ready for your final briefing." On a secure view screen, President Elena Rodriguez appeared, looking tired but resolute. "Admiral Chen, are we ready?" "As ready as 2 years of preparation can make us, Madam President. The Hegemony will arrive in 12 hours, exactly as our intelligence predicted." "And our chances?" Chen looked to her senior staff, then back to the President. If our analysis of their tactics and technology is correct, we have an 87% probability of success. And if we're wrong, then humanity will face its greatest challenge, Chen replied honestly. But we've planned for that too. Operation Phoenix is standing by. The president nodded gravely. Admiral, when I was elected, I never imagined I'd be leading humanity through its first interstellar war. With respect, Madam President, we've been at war since the moment the hegemony sensors detected our world. They just don't know it yet. 12 hours later, space around Earth rippled and tore as 7,000 hegemony warships emerged from hyperspace. They formed a perfect sphere around the planet, their weapons systems powered but not yet targeting. It was the standard hegemony, intimidation tactic, show overwhelming force, demand immediate surrender, avoid unnecessary damage to valuable resources. On the bridge of the Eternal Dominion, Vexathalon observed the primitive human defense force with satisfaction. Just as expected, approximately 300 vessels moved to defensive positions around their planet. Most were clearly converted civilian ships, with weapons hastily mounted to their hulls. Their movements were predictable, forming a defensive screen that would be useless against a force of the hegemony's size. Open a channel to their leadership, he commanded. A moment later, the face of President Rodriguez appeared on the main viewer. The human seemed remarkably calm for someone facing annihilation. President Rodriguez, Vexathalon began, you see before you the might of the galactic hegemony. Your planet is surrounded. Your defenses are inadequate. Surrender now, and your species will be permitted to live as productive members of the hegemony. The president's expression didn't change. Supreme Commander Vexathalon, we are aware of your reputation and your military record. We know what happened to the Banari and the Krith when they refused your generous offer. Earth's answer remains the same. We respectfully decline. Vexathalon's scales darkened with anger. Then you choose annihilation. Very well, we will... Actually, Rodriguez interrupted, before you continue, perhaps you should take a closer look at what you're facing. Before Vexathalon could respond, alarms began blaring across the bridge. The tactical officer's voice rose in confusion. Commander, new contacts appearing throughout the system. Hundreds, thousands of them. The holographic display showed waves of small craft emerging from hidden bases on Earth's moon, from beneath the clouds of Venus, from the asteroid belt, even from beneath the ice of Europa. These weren't the primitive vessels the hegemony had expected. They moved with impossible speed and precision. Admiral Kazareth's bioluminescence flickered with agitation. What deception is this? Our scans showed no such fleet. On the view screen, President Rodriguez smiled. You scanned exactly what we wanted you to scan, Commander. Now perhaps we should discuss terms, but this time, we'll be dictating them. As if on cue, 300 of the decoy human vessels suddenly changed. Holographic projections fell away, revealing advanced warships with configurations the hegemony had never seen before. War Minister Drovak clicked his mandibles in agitation. Impossible. They couldn't have built this fleet without our knowledge. Science Director Talari's quiet voice cut through the chaos. They didn't just build ships, Commander. Look at the sensor readings. The tactical display updated, showing energy signatures unlike anything in the hegemony database. And then, something even more concerning, hegemony ships on the outer perimeter of the formation were reporting systems failures. Communication networks were breaking down. Targeting systems were going offline. Vexathalon's scales shifted to pale yellow, the color of uncertainty. For the first time in his long military career, the Supreme Commander felt something unexpected. Doubt. What is happening? He demanded. On the view screen, President Rodriguez answered calmly. What's happening, Commander, is that humanity has been preparing for this moment since we detected your scout ships 2 years ago. We knew exactly who you were, what you wanted, and how you operate. We've studied every battle you've fought, every species you've conquered. She leaned forward slightly. We humans have a saying, know your enemy. And we know you, Commander, better than you know yourselves. As if to emphasize her point, a massive structure began to rise from Earth's ocean, a platform that had been completely hidden from hegemony scans. Then another appeared, breaking through the ice of Antarctica, and another, emerging from what had appeared to be an ordinary mountain range. Vexithalon stared at the tactical display in growing horror as he realized the truth. The humans hadn't been preparing for surrender. They had been preparing for victory. The awakening chaos erupted on the bridge of the Eternal Dominion as alarms blared from every station. The tactical display showed the carefully arranged hegemony formation breaking apart as captains reacted independently to the unexpected threat. "Maintain discipline," Vexithalon roared. "Reform the fleet into defensive pattern Omega. Launch all fighters." But his orders weren't being received. Across the massive hegemony fleet, communication systems flickered and died, replaced by an eerie silence punctuated by occasional bursts of static. Science Director Talari worked frantically at her console. "Commander, they're not jamming our communications in the traditional sense, they're infiltrating them. Somehow they've accessed our encryption protocols." On screens across the hegemony fleet, the calm face of Fleet Admiral Sarah Chen appeared. "Attention hegemony forces. This is Admiral Chen of Earth's Defense Force. Your communication networks are now under our control. Your targeting systems have been compromised. Your engines are being systematically locked down. You have 30 minutes to power down your weapons systems and prepare to receive boarding parties, or we will be forced to take more aggressive action." War Minister Drovak slammed his fist against his console. How? Their technology should be centuries behind ours. "Because," Talari said quietly, "we made the oldest mistake in warfare. We underestimated our enemy." Vexithalon refused to accept defeat. "Launch autonomous attack drones. They can't have compromised those as well." Throughout the hegemony fleet, launch bays opened and thousands of attack drones swarmed out, their simple artificial intelligence immune to the electronic warfare that had crippled the larger ships. For a moment, it seemed the hegemony might regain the initiative. Then the space between Earth and the hegemony fleet rippled, and a new defense revealed itself. Millions of tiny objects previously invisible to sensors suddenly activated. Each no larger than a human hand, they formed a vast, three-dimensional web around the planet. "Quantum-linked defense nodes," Talari whispered in reluctant admiration. "They've created a neural network in space." The tiny defense nodes began to glow, connecting to each other with threads of energy. As the hegemony attack drones approached, the web responded not as individual units, but as a single organism. Precise beams of energy lanced out, destroying drones by the hundreds, then thousands. Inside Earth's Global Defense Command, Admiral Chen watched the battle unfold alongside her senior staff. The massive holographic display showed the positions of all forces in real time, updated through the quantum network. "The swarm is performing exactly as designed," Colonel Watkins reported. "Drone neutralization at 87% and climbing." Lieutenant Commander Okafor added, "Project Labyrinth has successfully infiltrated 93% of their communication systems. We're receiving their tactical data in real time. They're completely blind." Chen nodded. "And the veil? Has it held?" "Yes, Admiral," Okafor confirmed. "They still haven't detected our main fleet. This was humanity's true masterstroke. The ships that had revealed themselves, the platforms rising from Earth's surface, the defensive web. These were impressive, but they were not Earth's primary defense. They were the distraction." "It's time," Chen decided. "Signal Admiral Khatri. Operation Checkmate is go." At the edge of the solar system, where the heliosphere met interstellar space, a fleet of 1,000 Earth vessels dropped their advanced cloaking technology. These weren't the hastily converted civilian ships the hegemony had expected, nor were they the advanced but visible defenders currently engaging the invaders. These were humanity's true warships, designed and built in secret beneath the surfaces of Mars, Ganymede, and Titan. Admiral Prisha Khatri stood on the bridge of the EDF Thermopylae, the flagship of humanity's hidden fleet. "All ships execute checkmate formation," Target hegemony command vessels only. Precision strikes. Minimal casualties. The Earth fleet accelerated to attack velocity, approaching the hegemony formation from behind. With their sensors compromised and their attention focused on the threats before them, the hegemony never saw them coming. On the Eternal Dominion, the first indication that something was wrong came when 12 escort vessels suddenly went dark. No explosions, no distress calls, they simply disappeared from the tactical display. "Commander," the sensor officer cried. "Multiple new contacts appearing behind our formation. They're targeting command ships." Vexthalon watched in stunned disbelief as Earth forces executed a perfect pincer movement, catching the hegemony fleet between two forces. More alarming still was the precision of their attacks. They weren't targeting the bulk of the hegemony fleet, just the command ships. "They know our chain of command," he realized aloud. "They know exactly which ships to target to cause maximum disruption." Science Director Talari, still analyzing incoming data despite the chaos, suddenly froze. "Commander," she said, her voice barely audible, "I've analyzed their weapons technology. They're not using anything we don't understand. In fact, much of it appears to be based on our own designs." "What are you saying?" Vexthalon demanded. "I'm saying they've been studying us for far longer than 2 years," Talari replied. "Somehow they knew we were coming before we even discovered their world." On the main viewer, President Rodriguez reappeared. "Supreme Commander, I'm offering you one final opportunity to surrender. Your fleet is surrounded, your command structure is compromised, and your tactical options are exhausted." Vexthalon's scales had shifted to the deep blue of rage. "Never! The hegemony does not surrender." "I thought you might say that," Rodriguez replied. "Admiral Chen, you may proceed with the final demonstration." From Earth, a single beam of concentrated energy lanced upward through space, striking an unoccupied area between the opposing fleets. For a moment, nothing happened. Then space itself seemed to fold inward, creating a temporary but highly localized distortion in the fabric of reality. "A controlled gravitational lens," Talari whispered. "They've weaponized spacetime itself." War Minister Drovak stared at the readings in horror. "If they had targeted us with that, we would cease to exist," Talari finished. "Not destroyed, erased." For the first time in the history of the galactic hegemony, Supreme Commander Vexthalon gave the order he had never imagined uttering. "All ships, stand down weapons, prepare to surrender." 3 days later, representatives from Earth and the hegemony met aboard a neutral station in Earth orbit. The negotiation chamber was simple but elegant, with a circular table symbolizing the equality of all parties. President Rodriguez and Admiral Chen represented Earth, while a subdued Vexthalon and Talari represented the hegemony. "Before we begin formal negotiations," Rodriguez said, "I believe there's a question you'd like to ask, Commander." Vexthalon's scales had settled into a dull gray of defeat. How did primitives who only recently achieved spaceflight defeat the greatest military force in the galaxy? Admiral Chen smiled slightly. "We're not primitives, Commander. We never were." She activated a holographic display showing humanity's true history, not the carefully constructed facade they had presented to the galaxy, but their actual technological development. 50 years ago, an automated hegemony probe entered our solar system, Chen explained. "We detected it, captured it, and studied it. We learned not only about your technology, but about your entire civilization, how you operate, how you think, and most importantly, how you conquer. We made a collective decision," Rodriguez continued. "Rather than announcing ourselves to the galaxy and becoming another target, we would prepare. We maintained a facade of primitive technology while secretly advancing beyond anything you could imagine." Talari's eyes widened in understanding. "The quantum network, the gravitational lens technology, these aren't recent developments." "No," Chen confirmed. "We've had some form of these technologies for decades. What you saw wasn't the extent of our capabilities. It was merely what we chose to reveal." Vexthalon struggled to comprehend the implications. Why reveal yourselves now? Why not remain hidden? Because isolation isn't a long-term solution, Rodriguez replied. Humanity belongs among the stars. But we will join the galactic community on our terms, not as conquered subjects, but as equals. She leaned forward, her expression firm but not unkind. The terms of our agreement are simple. The hegemony will withdraw from Earth space. You will acknowledge Earth's sovereignty and our control over our entire solar system. In return, we will share certain technologies that will benefit all species, and we will not take retributive action against hegemony worlds. And if we refuse? Bexathelon asked, though his tone suggested he already knew the answer. Admiral Chen's voice was calm, but left no room for doubt. Then we will do what humanity has always done when threatened with extinction. We will fight. And as you've seen, Commander, that's not a fight you can win. As the negotiations continued, news spread throughout the galaxy. The invincible hegemony had been defeated, not by superior numbers or devastating weapons, but by human ingenuity, foresight, and determination. On countless worlds, oppressed, species looked to Earth with new hope. The message was clear. The age of the hegemony was ending and humanity was just getting started.